I think it would be fair to say that Infinity War is easily Marvel's best MCU film, hands down. It literally had years of build-up and hype, only to meet and exceed the expectations set forth by both the fans and the marketing team. And this success was essentially carried on the shoulders of Thanos, whose motivations in the MCU were far more interesting than some intergalactic simp wanting pussy from the goddess of death. That being said, many people have discussed this film and Thanos' philosophy since the release of this blockbuster movie. But you all told me that you wanted me to cover the Mad Titans ideology, so here we are. It's my hope that I can provide you all with something that you haven't heard before. As such, let's get this party started by examining Thanos' philosophy. Marvel's roided-up Grimace believed that the universe's resources were finite, meaning that these resources could eventually be depleted completely. The obvious conclusion of this belief was that life, if left unchecked, would eventually consume everything in this vast universe. And the result of this would be the inevitable extinction of life itself.
You're insane.
Little one, it's a simple calculus. This universe is finite, its resource is finite. If life is left unchecked, life will cease to exist. It needs correction.
You don't know that!
This belief wasn't merely theoretical either, as Thanos personally survived the demise of his own civilization. The Titans did not heed his warning, and they, unfortunately, suffered the consequence of what Thanos had predicted.
Titan was like most planets. Too many mouths, not enough to go around. And when we faced extinction, I offered a solution. They called me a madman. And what I predicted came to pass.
Thanos' solution was simple. In order to maintain a sustainable balance between production and consumption, life would have to be limited. And since life, in its current state of affairs, was in a state of imbalance, it would hence have to be balanced by force. As such, life itself would have to be culled. And for some reason, Thanos figured that wiping out 50% of life was the proper solution.
Genocide.
But random, dispassionate, fair to rich and poor alike. With all 6 stones, I could simply snap my fingers. They would all cease to exist. I call that mercy.
I have to admit it, at least Thanos didn't pick favorites with his genocide plan, as his genocide would have been non-discriminatory in nature. It also would have been a painless termination of life. Be that as it may, mass genocide is just not justifiable. And when you have the ability to make reality whatever you want, why not just make more resources? Why not just improve everyone's IQ so that they can be far more efficient with the resources they currently have? Why not just make life itself self-sustaining? Why immediately resort to dusting people? Thanos, by virtue of possessing the Infinity Stones and the Infinity Gauntlet, basically had the same powers of a Minecraft server admin. Plainly stated, Thanos was clearly wrong, even if the premise of his argument may have been correct. But before we tackle the fundamental presupposition at the core of his philosophy, we should briefly discuss how he attempted to enact his vision without the power of the Infinity Stones. The infraggable Krunk basically went all around the cosmos invading sovereign worlds, only to slash their populations in half, by force. Unlike the Infinity Stone plan, this certainly involved an untold number of needlessly painful deaths. And this execution of life wasn't perfectly random as well. Oh, and obviously this was also just another act of genocide. And I really hope I shouldn't have to explain why genocide is wrong. That being said, Thanos claims that he's managed to help worlds prosper as a result of this insane population control policy. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest with all of you. I'm calling bullshit on that claim. Even though the termination of life itself is random, the actual termination of professions is not going to be evenly distributed. What happens if that 50% role ends up decimating the agricultural industry? Well, now we have mass starvation leading to more miserably painful deaths. How do you think a global economy will react when billions of incomes are removed overnight? Look at what the COVID global shutdowns did. Every developed nation faced a major recession and historic inflation. COVID killed 1.8 million people worldwide in just 2020. And to this day, we are still dealing with the effects of losing millions of incomes and the aftermath of a global supply shock. Imagine if the death total was 4 billion instead of 1.8 million. Imagine if the total fatality figure was 50% of all people on Earth instead of just 0.02. In the case of the Gauntlet Snap, which affected all forms of life, how do you think ecosystems will react when half of all life forms are wiped out? Do you honestly believe that the cascading effects from ecological collapses would be beneficial? Imagine being on a transatlantic flight, and the blip happens. Now envision that the pilots flying the plane are all dusted. Everyone on that plane is dying, even though the initial snap eliminated only a handful of people on board. Fact of the matter is, I think Thanos is lying, or is either being delusional about the results of his genocides. In all reality, eliminating 50% of all life in any given system is bound to be a needlessly catastrophic event that benefits almost no one. Even on a long-term timescale, such a genocidal policy wouldn't be beneficial. That's because Thanos' foundational premise is incorrect. Sure, the universe is finite, but it is so vast that no form of life will ever manage to deplete its resources. If a civilization manages to master nuclear fusion as opposed to fission, it will essentially have nearly limitless clean energy. Any civilization which manages to construct Dyson spheres will also have the energy output of an entire star, which is an energy source that can supply energy for billions and even trillions of years, all depending on the star in question. Elements like hydrogen and oxygen are also plentiful throughout the universe. Any significantly advanced spacefaring civilizations should eventually be able to harvest these elements from comets and gas giants, all in order to then produce water at quantities that would meet the demands of trillions upon trillions of life forms. If life eventually transcends organics to become synthetic, then the only real need would be energy, which is fucking plentiful in the universe. Truth be told, the presupposition at the heart of Thanos' philosophy is technically true, but it is also functionally false. The universe is so vast that any significantly advanced civilization will be able to enjoy a post-scarcity economy. As such, the proper solution would be to help civilizations to reach that point, as opposed to just killing 50% of all life forms, like some mouth-breathing, glue-drinking imbecile. So yes, Thanos was a fucking moron whose philosophy was basically written in crayon. But damn it, he was such a good villain. Anyways, if you enjoy this sort of content, please like, share, and fucking subscribe. Also remember that you may opine anytime if you feel so inclined down in the comment section. I'm Captain Gold and I hope to see you in my next Gold Standard video.